All right, we're now going to hear from a series of stakeholders. We are fortunate to have representatives from government, business, scientists, civil society, and youth here in the room with us today. First, I'd like to bring to the stage the first half of our government speaker lineup. So we're going to have 2 sets of 3 speakers. I'm going to call your names and have you come on up and go ahead and speak in that order. And so to react to the ministerial declaration and to share their goals for the next few weeks of negotiations. So please welcome to the stage the Honorable Sir Molwyn Joseph, Minister of Health, who has been a significant government leader in Antigua and Barbuda for 35 years, and who has served in the government of Antigua and Barbuda as Minister of Health, Wellness, and Environment since 2014. Come on to the stage. The Honorable Rebecca Powell. The Honorable Rebecca Powell, Parliamentary Undersecretary of State and Minister of Environment Equality in the United Kingdom, with responsibilities including resources and waste, environmental regulation, including chemicals, air quality, noise, and water. Welcome. And of course, the Honorable Takeshi Akahori, Assistant Minister, Ambassador of Global Issues for Japan. All right. Welcome to the stage. Sir Molwyn, you can begin. Thank you so much.
Excellencies, members of the High Ambition Coalition, it's indeed an honor for me to make these remarks on behalf of Antigua and Barbuda. I am pleased to meet everyone in Paris, where we embarked on the second leg of this journey to end plastic pollution. My delegation looks forward to working with you in the spirit of cooperation towards completing the work of the INC by the intended date of 2004. I must declare that I'm here in Paris, having been part of the World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland. And as I sat and listened to the previous speakers, I realized the important link between the pollution and the health of our people. The issue of plastic pollution should not be deemed only a concern, but one that requires extensive action, especially considering how small island developing states such as mine are most affected by this plague, for which small island developing states contribute very little. As is in the case of climate change, we saw small islands continue to carry the burden of the fallout of climate change, but are not responsible for the vast majority of pollution in the atmosphere. Given our vulnerability to environmental threats and distinct geographical circumstances, plastic pollution puts an added strain on our limited waste management capacity, which is stretched to the limits. It affects our economies, our livelihoods, health, and environment, including our cultural ties to the marine environment. So while we are grateful for the common collective concern which brings us together here as one of the island states, members of this coalition should be reminded that we have a very small window to address and arrest the severe damage that is being done by plastics, not only to the environment, but to human health. The fish that consume microplastics, the same fish ends up on the plates of our citizens. I posit that high ambition can look this way. We need to first close the tap by addressing the unsustainable sourcing and extraction of raw materials to make plastics, along with devising strategies to reduce global plastic production to more sustainable levels. The concept of the circularity and sustainability must be integral in establishing design standards and criteria for new and existing products. We need to rely on sound science, information, data, and technology to work towards developing targets for the inclusion of recycled content in new products and alternatives to be used as substitutions. To this end, we need to work toward a progressive elimination of the problematic polymers, chemicals, and additives which pose risks to human health and the environment. In identifying the materials to be managed on the global plastics regime, we need to establish safe alternatives. We wish to promote synergies with the existing agreements such as the Basel Convention and the Transboundary Movement of Waste, as well as the Cartagena Convention that addresses the protection of marine environment to the wider Caribbean region. We must target the most problematic, unnecessary, and avoidable plastic products, including marine plastic litter and microplastics. The criteria to identify these projects must include a minimum products with the highest propensity to become plastic pollutants or which otherwise pose risk of adverse effects. States must progressively work toward a globally harmonized system for labeling products, particularly including the disclosure of their contents to enable consumer choice, as well as the means of preventing leakage, especially in the context of developing countries and SIDS. There must be a concerted global effort to boost the collection, sorting, recycling, and disposal of both recyclable and non-recyclable plastic waste. And finally, the journey to end plastic pollution must include the remediation of legacy plastic pollution in the marine environment, which affects SIDS, global health, and biodiversity. And however, as we issue the call for the highest possible level of ambition in global plastic treaty, we all must be prepared to be just as assertive in our calls for effective and robust provisions to ensure the participation of and implementation by developed countries and SIDS. In building the financial mechanism, we require new, additional, adequate and predictable means of implementation under the instrument with specific support provisions of SIDS, including priority access. The plastic pollution problem is universal, but our national circumstances and domestic contents are unique to us. We owe it to our current and future generations, many of whom are not here, to leave a nation, a world, no less polluted than we have inherited. Let me remind that in the discussion, from my experience, Antigua and Barbuda being the first island state in the Caribbean to eliminate single-use plastics in 2016, that we have learned a few lessons. We must integrate the energy, the imagination of a young people. We started 2 years ago to recycle the PET plastics. And in 1.5 years, the young people, the families, collected over 9 million bottles of plastic in Antigua and Barbuda, with a population of just under 100,000. And much of that collection was done by primary school children. We need to use the leverage of their enthusiasm. We need to educate them. I end you by saying we need plastic pollution literacy in all societies. I thank you.